Hi, I'm here practicing outside, which I love to do. Today, my focus is going to be on the heart chakra. Why did I select that particular chakra for today's work? Well, I am just beginning to follow astrology to some degree. I'm a firm believer that we do absorb and are influenced by the energy that nature gives us, whether it's through the weather, the barometric pressure, and the phases of the moon. Clearly, all of these things have an effect on us physically and mentally. So why not the stars and the planets? So I'm starting to follow that collectively, and this is a very auspicious week for the planet Venus. It's been in retrograde for a while, a couple of weeks, and will be for a couple weeks longer. And that just means that it's invisible in the night sky right now. It's very close to the sun. And it's going into what they call a cazimi on Sunday. This is the week of August 7th. And that means it's going to be aligned with and very close to the sun and gathering a lot of that solar energy. Now, again, I'm no expert on this, so you might be able to correct me on this. But I think that the chief thing, if I'm saying it incorrectly, to remember is that Venus is getting re-energized right now. It's kind of going underground and working out its stuff and getting re-energized by the sun. This planet, Venus, is the planet of connection and love and pleasure. Makes it perfect fourth chakra work. So even if you're not doing this practice this week with me, anytime that you feel imbalanced in the heart chakra can be a great time to work into the fourth chakra, into this practice that we're doing today. How do you know? Are you feeling particularly disconnected or shy? Are you having some issues with relationships? It doesn't mean just romantic, your family, your friends. When we walk into a room and we're feeling disconnected, it might be reflected in our posture. We close off. Physically, this chakra is related to the chest, but also the shoulders and the upper back. So we're going to be strengthening the upper back so that it helps pull our shoulders back, open the chest, and help alleviate back pain as well as poor posture. I will talk a little bit more about this as we go along. And just know that you should finish this practice feeling open in the heart and walking tall. So let's begin. So we'll begin just seated. Sit on blocks. You'll need 2 blocks for this practice, so take a moment now to get them if you don't have them. And then maybe close your eyes so that you can just feel. Imagine your spine long and tall, like the trunk of a tree. Rock forward and back a few times. See if you can find a perfect balancing point. And when you settle into that perfect balance point, just notice the natural shape and form your body takes. Don't try to correct it too much. For example, I know my shoulders come forward a little bit, and because of that, my head floats forward just a little bit. This can manifest in some neck pain, certainly upper back tightness. And once you get a feel for your alignment, you can do something simple to try to correct any sort of a slouch or forward motion. Inhale and lift your arms high. And as you reach your fingertips up towards the sky, lift your ribs off of your pelvis. Stretch that space between your lowest rib and your hips. Hold on to that and lower your hands back down by your hips. And you might notice that your alignment's a little bit better. Your ears may be more over your shoulders and shoulders over your hips. Join your palms together at the heart. Interlace your hands. Notice which thumb is closest to your chest. This is your preferred interlace. Press your palms forward. Feel a stretch in your hands and in your fingers. Lift your hands up to the sky, pressing your palms up. Take a big inhale, filling your lungs. And then exhale, release your hands all the way down. Bring your palms back up, and this time when you interlace, take your less preferred interlace. Your other thumb will be closest to your chest. Extend your arms, and then inhale as you lift. Big inhale, filling your lungs. And then exhale and release your hands all the way down. Bring your palms back together at the heart. One more time, interlace, press your palms forward, and then lift your arms high. Big inhale. And this time as you exhale, just lower your hands halfway down until your arms are level with your shoulders. And then cross your right arm across your chest and hook your left arm beneath, soften. Now resist the temptation to bring your hands up right away and go into an eagle pose. Rather, just stay here because this is a different stretch. This is focusing on the back of the shoulder and the upper back. Then lower your right arm and lift it high to the sky and bring your fingers between your two shoulder blades. With your left hand, take a hold of your elbow and lift and stretch your tricep. Then release and then open your left arm out to the side. Cross your left arm across your chest and hook your right arm beneath it and soften. Take a couple of breaths here. And then lift your arm high to the sky. Bend your elbow with your hand, your right hand on your left elbow. Hold for a tricep stretch. Release it and bring your arms back to the T shape. Turn your right palm to face the sky, your left palm to face the space behind you, and then see if you can touch your fingers between your shoulder blades. And then lift, and then we'll switch that shoulder rotation and see if you can touch between your shoulder blades. And we'll do that a couple more times. With the focus here is just on rolling the humerus, your upper arm bone, in your shoulder socket. So one more time each way. This is a good way to lubricate the shoulders, get ready for deeper work. And then come back to the T, interlace your hands behind you, roll your shoulders together and down your back, lift your thumbs away from your hips. Take a deep breath into your chest, and then exhale and release. Take your blocks to the front of your mat now. Come into a tabletop position at the very front of your mat. Have your hands close to the front of your mat, just a couple of inches away. Lengthen your spine, and on your next exhale, round into your cat pose. Rounded spine, chin to chest, tailbone tucks. Inhale, lift your tailbone, lift your gaze, let your belly drop. Do that a few times. You'll notice I don't have a particularly deep back bend, so when I come into this cow pose, when I inhale and lift my tailbone and lift my gaze, it doesn't look like much. That's just me. Round your spine into your cat pose. I do this quite nicely. Inhale into your back bend. Come back to neutral. And this time, extend your right leg straight. And as you round, bring your nose towards your knee or your knee towards your nose. And as you inhale, extend your leg out behind you. And exhale. Rounding deep, closing your heart, closing your chest. Inhale into a low back bend, extending your leg behind you. Do that a couple more times. One more time, we'll extend. Pause for a moment here. Bend your knee and open it out to the right. It's okay to move your hands for balance. Make some large circles with your knee, directing it towards the right. And then switch the direction of your circles. And the next time that your knee is lifted, pause and sweep your leg behind you. Cross it over the midline of your body towards the left. Gaze over your left shoulder and take a breath here. Couple of deep breaths rather. Opening up your right rib cage. And then extend the leg behind you and draw your knee in. Extend your left leg and lift it till it's parallel with the mat. Round your spine, draw your knee in towards your nose, and then inhale and extend. Rounding, stretching your back body, but as you lengthen, feel strength created in your back body from your hamstring to your glute into the muscles of your back. The next time you extend your leg back, pause and bend your knee and open your knee out to the side and make some large circles. And switch direction. As we do this, we're lubricating the hip joint just like we did our shoulders a little bit before. And as your knee is open, sweep it behind you, cross it over the midline of your body, look over your right shoulder at your left foot, take a few deep breaths into your left rib cage. And then extend your legs straight back behind you. Remember, your hands are close to the front of your mat, so you're ready to round your spine and extend your right leg back. Lift to your downward facing dog and then forward to plank, and do that a few times. Getting a little more heat in the shoulders. The next time you come forward to your plank, pause, shift forward, lower your knees, and come all the way down to your belly. Now, from your belly, bend your left knee. So we're externally rotating the left leg. Bend your left knee out to the left. So you're making like a number 4 shape or an A shape with your belly, with your legs rather. And then bring your arms into goalpost and turn your head to the right and just lower your cheek to the mat and rest there for just a moment. Bring your hands to your mid-ribs. Keep your legs as they are and lift your heart off the mat. So you may not be able to lift very far. Turn your gaze over your left shoulder. See if you can look at that left bent leg. Lift a little higher and draw your left shoulder back. So you're kind of like curious about, whoa, what's going on with my foot here? Squeeze the muscle around your left shoulder blade, strengthening the left side of your upper back. And then turn your nose down, lower, extend your leg, and let's repeat that. Bend your right knee out to the right, make an H shape, goalpost your arms, turn your head towards the left. Rest there for just a moment. Then place your hands about your mid-ribs, elbows facing the sky. Lift your heart off the mat, roll your shoulders back, and turn your gaze towards your right foot. Draw your right shoulder back, you're twisting a bit and squeezing the muscles in your right upper back. Turn your gaze forward, lower, and re-extend your right leg. Press the tops of your feet down. Bring your hands back. Just rest your fingertips on the mat. Palms down, fingertips resting down. As you inhale, lift your heart. Squeeze your shoulder blades together. And then lower. Relax your shoulders towards the mat. So you'll feel your shoulders come forward. Then, again, lift your shoulders, lift your heart. Keep your fingers on the mat. And then lower. Let's do that a few times. There's a lot of movement going on in your shoulders here. So you feel the upper back muscles strengthen, and then you feel the upper back muscles stretch. Lift as you inhale, strengthen, and then release everything as you exhale. Let's do that a couple more times, just a couple more times. Relax. Now, the next time that you lift, make certain that you've got space around you. Do like a face down snow angel on your mat. Move any props that are in your way. Keep your left hand down on the mat. Lift your left leg. Lift your heart and sweep your right arm forward. And then back and lower. Lift your right leg. Sweep your left arm forward and back and lower. Let's do that a couple more times. And your focus here is on the muscles around your shoulder blade as you lift. So as you lift and you take your arm through that motion, feel the muscles in your upper back and your shoulder blade lifting, providing the lift for the movement. Let's take one more time each side. And then lower. Place your hands by your mid-ribs. Lift to an easy cobra. Curl your toes under. And make your way to downward facing dog. Pedal your feet. Work through your feet and your ankles and your calves. Soften your knees and walk your feet forward to your hands. Relax here. Let your arms get very relaxed and your neck. If your arms were noodles, they'd be cooked to noodles. Same with your neck. If you move and sway, you just dangle. And then roll a vertebra at a time, coming all the way up to standing. Bring your shoulder blades together, back and down. Make certain you've got your blocks handy now. So if you've moved them for our last work, bring them back, highest level. Join your palms at the heart. Inhale, lift your arms high. Interlace your last three fingers, extend your index fingers, and exhale over to the left, opening your right ribs again. And inhale and lift, and then exhale to the right. Inhale as you lift, and as you exhale, soften your knees, bring your fingers to the blocks, move the blocks back by your heels, and step your left leg way back. Come into your long lunge. If you scooch the leg back, you'll feel a stretch right here in the front of your hip, even though your right knee is still aligned over your heel. Lift your heart. Extend your right knee towards straight and bend. So moving back and forth like this a few times, focusing on the hips and the hamstring. Now the next time that you bend your knee, let's pause and stay there with this. Lower your knee and the top of your foot to the mat. Keep tucking your tailbone down. So you'll notice that from my shoulder all the way down, I'm forming a back bend right here. If you're leaning forward, closing your heart, this isn't much of a back bend. If you lift your heart and roll your shoulders back and tuck your tailbone down, you'll feel a stretch here. This illustrates to you how important it is that the front of your hip be open for your back bends if you're going into deeper back bends. In the meantime, this is a good back bend all on its own, so let's pause here and enjoy this. And then curl your back toe under, lift your knee, and extend your front leg towards straight. If you need to shorten your stance an inch or two to do that. Straight is a direction, not necessarily a go. You may be able to straighten the knee. You may need a micro bend. Lift the front part of your foot, keeping your heel on the mat. So that's what that looks like, moving your block. And simultaneously press your back heel down, opening your calf. And then plant the front foot and lift your back heel high, stretching your foot. So we'll rock back and forth, really working into the feet and the calves. Just a few times. The next time that you press your back heel towards the mat, hold it, press your front foot down. This should give you a different stretch. Now I feel it in the front of my shin. Plant your left block down and hold. So take your palm, maybe if you need a little bit more lift, bring your knuckles and open your right arm like a goalpost again. And As you exhale, twist your heart towards your right straightened leg. And as you inhale, just lower. We'll do that a few times. So this is strengthening for our obliques and for our lats, certainly for our core, but also upper back. So focus on squeezing the muscles around your right shoulder blade. The next time that you lower your heart towards the mat, pause, bend your front knee, soften your back knee, and we'll just simply step our back foot forward and switch. So scoot your right foot back now, lift your heart, and extend your left knee towards straight and bend. So even though this is a heart opening practice, we are still working into the hips and the legs. We don't want to forget that this is a long enough practice to make sure that we get all of the different parts. One more complete turn here, and then lower your back knee, top of your foot, tuck your tailbone down, roll your shoulders back, lift your heart, work into the stretch in the front of your hip, making this a heart opening back bend. This pose is called Alanasana Crescent Lunge. When you're doing this pose, think about creating sensation in the front of your right hip, upper back by drawing your shoulder blades together and down, but very little in your low back. Learning to tuck your tailbone down can protect your low back. And when we have a back bending practice, that's super important. The low back wants to do a lot of the work in the back bend, and it can get overused. Then curl your back toe under and lift your knee and bring your front knee towards straight. If it doesn't quite straighten, that's okay. Press your back heel towards the mat, lift the front part of your left foot, and then rock forward and lift your back heel. So just like we did before, giving our feet, ankles, calves a little TLC. And the next time that your right heel presses down, hold it. Press your left foot completely down. Pause here, enjoying that stretch. Again, you may feel it in the front of your ankle, your shin, certainly your back calf. Then keep your right hand on your block, extend your left arm, goal post it, and exhale and twist and lower. Keep your elbow aligned with your shoulder. The tendency is to allow it to drift back, closing it towards the hip. So you're going to keep your elbow by your shoulder and work deep into the muscles around your left shoulder blade. Part of opening the chest is having the strong upper back muscles to do so. Take one more repetition and then lower. Soften your knee, little change here. So instead of just stepping forward, move your blocks to the lowest level, plant your hands on them, and scoop your left shin out and come into a tabletop with your knees. Keep your hands on the blocks. Now, your ability may vary depending on your shoulder structure, and your shoulder opening. With your hands on your blocks, start to walk your knees away, and once you feel like, okay, I've gone far enough, allow your heart to melt down towards the mat. With your hands on your blocks, stretch your hips back, feel your chest and your shoulders open. If this is too intense, you can open your blocks wider apart like a V, or just take your hands down to the mat as well. So a couple of options. You choose the one that gives you the appropriate stretch. A little bit of a challenge, but not too hot or sharp. Then lift your shoulders, walk your knees back, and move your blocks off your mat. Place your hands right a few inches from the front of your mat. I call that like a starting line. That's a very important spot on our mat. And curl your toes under, lift to a downward facing dog. Soften your knees, look forward, and step your right foot by your right thumb. So you're just going to step, assisting your foot if you need to. And if that doesn't work, you can always lower your knees, step the foot forward, and then re-lift your back leg. From this low lunge, look at your left foot. See where the ball of the foot is. This is important. Be precise on this. Where that foot is, place your heel. So it's like you've made a dot on the mat with the ball of your foot, and now your heel is covering that dot. Bring your right thumb into your right hip crease and push it back. Extend your left arm forward and lift your torso. So this is a little more challenging than the lunges we were doing before, but it is still a back bend. This is Virabhadrasana 1. Lift both arms high. If you need to shorten your stance to get your back foot comfortably and completely on the mat, do that. Then, bring your hands to your low hips, interlace with your left thumb closest to your hips. Take a shoulder roll back, lift your heart, and fold. Bring your right shoulder to your right inner knee, let your knuckles rise, and your head lower into a humble warrior. Replace your knuckles by your hips. Lengthen and lift. Bring your right hand to your right thigh. Lift your left arm high. Reach forward. Now, you have an option to pivot your back heel up if you need to. You can also keep your foot flat on the mat. Bring your left elbow to your right thigh. Prayer your hands. Take the twist. Look down. Lower your hands back to the mat. You have an option to take a vinyasa. I'm going to do that here, but if you'd want, go right back to downward facing dog. So, stepping back either to down dog or to your plank pose. If you're taking your vinyasa, shift forward, lower to chaturanga or to your belly, to your cobra or your up dog, and then downward facing dog. Soften your knees, look forward, and step your left foot by your left thumb. Also lowering your knees if you need to. Look at your right foot where the ball of the foot is. That's where we're going to plant our heel. Hook your left thumb into your left hip crease and push your hip back. Reach your right arm forward. Keep the bend of the front knee and rise. Lift both arms high. Virabhadrasana 1. Bring your hands to your hips and interlace with your right thumb closest to your pelvis. A shoulder roll opens your heart, and then hinge forward. Bringing your left shoulder by your left inner knee. Let your head lower and your knuckles rise. And replace your thumb right by your hips again and bring your left hand to your thigh. Reach your right arm forward, twist towards the left, and prayer your hands. Look down. Plant your hands. Option to go right to down dog, or step back to your plank, shift forward, lower to your belly, or if you have a chaturanga in your practice, cobra, or if you have an up dog in your practice, and downward facing dog. Now, soften your knees, look forward, and step your right foot, again, by your right thumb. Left foot plants right where the ball of your left foot was. Right thumb comes into the hip, push the hip back, lift all the way up, and then match it with your right arm. This time, open your arms out to the side and give yourself a hug. This time, your left elbow will be above your right elbow. Then, turn your fingers to face up and join your palms and lift your elbows up and away from your heart and reach forward. So stretch for the muscles that we've been working pretty hard in the upper back. This is Garudasana arms. Lower your elbows. Lift your arms high to the sky. Lower your hands. Step right back to downward facing dog. Soften your knees, look forward. Step your left foot by your left thumb. Move your right foot a little bit to the right, planting the heel right where the ball of the foot was. Stabilize your left hip with your hands and lift. Match. Open your arms, and this time during our hug, our right arm is on top. Point your fingers towards the sky, join your palms, and lift your elbows high and away from your heart. Take some deep breaths, stretching the upper back. Lower your elbows and release your hands. And then lower your hands, pause, step back to the top of a push-up. Shift forward. You can lower your knees if you like, or keep your legs straight, but we'll all meet right on our belly. So, moving a little bit more into the traditional heart-opening poses. But just because it's about the heart doesn't mean that no other muscles are involved. Bend your left knee and reach back and take a hold of your left foot. Press your pubic bone down deep into the mat as you draw the heel towards your hip. In our back bends, it's also about the quadriceps and the hip flexors. There's a lot involved in back bending us. So take some deep breaths into the quads that might be tight. And then release. Bend your right knee. Reach back and take a hold of your right foot and pull your right foot in. So if you're feeling a little socially disconnected, some interesting questions to ask might be on a physical level. Do I have any upper back pain? How are my shoulders? Sometimes things parallel. So issues that are happening emotionally might have a physical manifestation. And heart chakra issues, again, are focused with chest and upper back and shoulders. The different organs would be the lungs and the heart, so certainly worth looking at that as well. And know that it isn't just about feeling disconnected. Let's release that foot. Also, another imbalance would be when we feel too much attachment. So if we find ourselves obsessing, for example, over something, that could be an imbalance in heart chakra as well. So too much attachment to a person or pleasure or something. This would be excessive energy. Bend both of your knees and reach back and take a hold of the tops of your feet. If your knees give you trouble on this one, just release your feet and flex your feet here, and you can make this very strengthening. Also, if it's just a matter of grasping and you roll to one side, you can often grab them because your knees can get a little bit more movement. So just make certain that the knees don't feel any excessive pulling. If so, don't hold on to the ankles, just flex the feet. Press the pubic bone down into the mat. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, and as you inhale, lift your thighs and lift your heart. Take some deep breaths here. Take one more inhale. And then exhale, release. Let's come back to that number 4 position that we did. So as you lower your legs and your hands, open your left knee, externally rotate, bending the knee. Goal post your arms, turn your head to the right, and just melt. Then turn your nose to face the mat again. Extend your right leg, bend your knees. Going to do a second Dhanurasana or bow pose. Reach back, take a hold of your ankles or the tops of your feet. Again, any modifications that you practiced before, you'll do again. Press your pubic bone deep to help open your low back. Draw your shoulder blades together. Inhale, lift your heart and lift your thighs. Lower, release, bend your right knee out to the right, goal post your arms and turn your head to the left. Then turn your nose down to the mat and re-extend your legs. Have a block handy and bend your knees as you come onto your back. So, knees bent, resting on your back, heels close to the hips. There's going to be a couple of options. Some of you like to do a full upward facing bow, a full back bend. If that's in your practice and you feel confident, you can certainly take this time to do that. We're going to hold our bridge pose with a block under our hips to make it more restorative. So that will give you time to do variations. Press your low back down. Feel how the low back gets long and the pelvis tilts. And then lift your hips off the mat. With your hands by your side, interlace your hands under your hips and tuck your shoulders deep underneath you. Now lift your hips, tilting your tailbone towards your knees, so you'll feel a stretch in your thighs, the fronts of your hips, and your chest. Then place the block at the highest level that you can underneath your hips. Wrap your hands around that block, interlacing them again, so that you continue to open the chest. Take some deep breaths here. Now, this is your opportunity to work into another variation if you want. We'll hold this for about 30 seconds. Take deep breaths into the chest, filling and emptying the lungs. Wherever you are, finish up, last couple of breaths. Now, if you're still resting your hips on your block, lift your hips, remove your block, and slowly lower your spine all the way down. With that block handy, and everybody should be on their back now with their knees bent, extend your left leg, shift your hips over to the right, draw your knee in, and then cross your knee over your midline towards the left and open your arms like a T. So you might feel a stretch here in your right chest and shoulder. So this is still a good heart opening pose, even though it's also a great way to release tension in your low back. Back bends often create some low back tension, even with our best pelvic tilts. Breathe deep into your low back, but also your right chest and shoulder. And then lower your right hip back to the mat and rebalance your hips. Extend your right leg straight. Bend your left knee. Use your block now. Move it to the right side. Shift your hips offset to the left. Draw your knee into your chest and cross it over the midline. And again, you can place a block underneath your knee, opening up your arms like a T. This time, this chest stretch is on the left side. When we sit, when we drive, when we work at our computers and our arms are going forward, this all works to close the muscles in the chest and the fronts of the shoulders and stretch our upper back. So we've done a lot to help balance that today. And then lower your hip back down to the mat and rebalance your hips. Keep your left knee bent and place your right ankle on your left knee. Let your right knee open away and lift your left foot off the mat. Interlace your hands around your thigh. Now, I like to imagine I've got a laser beam. It's shooting out of my left knee up to the sky, and I'm going to draw a circle on the sky with that laser beam. My knee draws in and away, and in and away, massaging the right hip. The next time that your knee draws in, pause and maybe lift your head and shoulders off the mat, deepening the stretch in the right hip. Replace your left foot and your head on the mat. Now, point your right foot up towards the sky. Keep the knee bent and hold on to your ankle or your calf or maybe your outer foot and pull your knee down towards your armpit. This is a half-happy baby. And then lower your foot. Bring your left ankle to your right knee. Lift your right foot off the mat. Interlace hands around your thigh. Make circles with your right knee, as though you've got a laser pointing up towards the sky and you're drawing a circle. And the next time that your knee comes in, pause, and then lift your head, and draw your nose towards your ankle. Lower your foot. Lower your head and point the sole of your foot up towards the sky. With your hands on your ankle or your outer foot or your calf, pull the knee down. And replace your foot. Now, last pose, fish pose. You may want to look over. I'll demo this quickly because I know sometimes the cueing can be tough. We'll extend the legs, but one at a time. I'm going to slide here, my right hand under my hip, and then my left hand under my hip. And so my hands are palms down with my wrists under my hips now. And then as we press our elbows down, the shoulders will draw back, the chest will lift, and then our whole upper body will lift. Tip your head back. And you can move your jaw. This is a great pose for opening up your heart and your throat. If you have neck issues, just come into your Shavasana right away. If that doesn't seem like something you want to do. All right? So, from your back, bend one knee with your foot on the mat, lift your hips, and then switch so that you can get both hands underneath your hips. Wrists are probably sitting on the hips now. Press your elbows deep. Draw your shoulder blades together. Feel your chest begin to float up. Bring your whole upper body up. Tip your head back and rest. And you can move your jaw. This is great for opening up any tightness in the jaw, opening up the throat chakra as well as the heart. Big heart opener. And then lower your head and your upper back to the mat. Slip your hands out and place one hand on your heart, another on your low belly, and relax. Let's take just one moment here to allow all of this work to integrate. Then bring some movement into your hands and into your feet. Bend your knees, roll to your side, and keep your eyes closed as you press yourself up to seated. Bring your palms together at the heart. Give yourself a deep inner bow for attending to your practice. And I thank you for sharing your effort and your energy with me. Namaste.